Hi, Ju. How are you today?
I'm great, Diana. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to talk to Dr. Zhu Shen today. She is biotech CEO turned award-winning filmmaker. Ju's story is a beautiful one that involves her then 11-year-old son, Perry Chen. And it also involves a number of very poignant moments in her life and a transformative journey she's made from Tiger Mom to Zen Mom. So we're going to talk a little bit today. You'll learn a little bit about Ju and her filmmaking. And we'll also give you a little teaser of a film that she's working on now called A Journey of 1,000 Miles that's currently in post-production, but she'll give us a little bit of a preview of the story that led her there. So first, though, I would love to ask you to share with us. I like to say, as we go through our lives, there are transitions and disruptions and challenges and either decisions we make or things that are foisted upon us and happen to us. And in your case, there was an inciting incident that led to your collaboration with your son on his animated film. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, Diana. So in 2012, my husband of 24 years, a brilliant Stanford-trained biotech founder and cancer researcher, was in his last days of cancer. And so when my son, who was 12 years old at the time, learned about the oncologist's verdict that his daddy, Changyou, had just 2 weeks to live.
Oh my gosh.
Perry announced to me that he wants to animate Daddy's story. He was already an accomplished animation artist with an Oscar qualified film that we made a year earlier. So he felt making this story will inspire his daddy to live longer, even a few days or a few more weeks longer. That would be so meaningful to him. And so, Diana, I was just so touched by my son's profound love for his dad, for my husband. And I thought, what a wonderful gift that would be. And I thought, how can I not support that? I'll do everything in my power to help him realize his dream to make that film possible. And my husband, Changyou, lived to see the 1-minute trailer that Perry made.
Oh, I was gonna say, please tell me that happened. Oh, that must.
Yeah. So Changyou left with such a sense of peace and serenity, and very proud that his son is carrying on his legacy in telling his story, and that I am helping Perry to make it into a reality. And so, but when Perry announced it during our walk in the neighborhood park, which is our routine, I thought to myself, well, here's an idea for another real life story of a documentary film, which I call it A Journey of 1,000 Miles, which is from the Chinese saying, journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So I thought, as my son is making this animation film as director and me as a producer, I can document his personal growth and artistic growth from a young boy to young adult, young man. And so that's when I decided to pick up a camera, which at the time was this very primitive iPad too. At the time, it was the top of line. Now it's quite ancient, but I just picked it up and started to record conversations that Perry and Changyou have when Changyou, for example, tell his life stories. And then I became this bona fide filmmaker, film director, in addition to a film producer. So this is my very first feature documentary film of a personal nature, which has now gotten amazing endorsement from the likes of industry giant like Janet Yang, the Joy Luck Club executive producer and governor of the Academy of Motion Pictures, and many others, who saw the early sample of my film, just loved it so much and felt that it helped them reconnect more deeply with their loved ones.
Mm. And so the connections are profound. I mean, the connection with your son, with his father, your husband, and now the two of you, as he grows older. And how old is Perry now? I was just
so Diana, my son, is 22 years old. He just finished his 4th year at UC Irvine as a Regent Scholar, majoring in international studies. And make a note, he's not majoring in any art-related field, but in more of a business, and because that's his own choosing. And that's part of my Zen Mom journey of, setting him free to decide on how he wants to live his own life without my undue influence.
Well, that's such a talk about a journey. I think as human beings, we especially as mothers, we want the best for our children.
Yes.
We want the absolute best, and especially if they're promising and driven. So was there a period, it sounds like there was a period that he was quite celebrated after his animated film.
Right.
So is that the period where you feel like that was your Tiger Mom moment? Was it dissipating at that time?
Yes. So Diana, so my Tiger Mom period, actually, I realized started almost since his early babyhood. I looked at the archive footage that we shot during his infancy. I was already reading him books and test him on Chinese characters and numbers when he was about 1 year old or so, between 1 and 1.5, and very much driven by the culture, the achievement culture, both from my Chinese heritage and obviously here in the U.S. too, because that's what people care about. That's kind of how we were brought up in society to value those things. So it took many years of deep reflection and working with a personal development coach who helped Perry and me truly reconnect as mother and son, as human being, rather than me viewing him as an instrument of achievement. Yes.
Well, your own, I think for all of us, and that's one of the things I think we celebrate as I think our 50th year for many of us is, if we haven't already set ourselves free a bit, like as you said, you set Perry free to follow his dream. It sounds like too, you set yourself free. You were a biotech CEO, and now you're like, no, I'm a filmmaker. That, would you ever have imagined when you were in your early stages of your career?
Never, ever have I imagined. However, as I said, my life has come full circle. When I was a young girl growing up in China during the Cultural Revolution, which is such a devastating, chaotic period in Chinese history, strangely, I developed interest for the arts and for moving pictures, because imagine those days, movies were the only mass entertainment available. Like we can't have anything else, but we can see movies, and they're all in the early days, they were all propaganda movies from China and other communist countries like North Korea and Yugoslavia and Romania and so forth. But even with those propaganda movies, for a child, it's fascinating to see moving picture stories unfold on the screen, that you can escape into other people's story. It's just an amazing experience. So I loved it. And
that's so
but then, I with China ending the Cultural Revolution in 76, a few years later, I was at the age to go to college. During the Cultural Revolution, all the colleges were shuttered. There was no school to go to. And all the young people were expected to be laboring in the countryside, like our parents had done, the intellectual parents of mine who they did that too. So I just felt I need to listen to my parents, what they have to say about my career choice. And it was really my dad's wish for me to become a doctor, because that would create a safe career for me, in the STEM tradition, away from politics, from the arts, where you can be persecuted for your thoughts and what you create. So that's what I did for much of my early career, going to medical school, then coming to the US for my PhD. But later I became interested in business. But ultimately, going into the arts is, I would say, a result of life's unexpected twists and turns. I helped cultivate my son Perry's interest in the arts, that he showed an early promise. So we did a lot of storytelling. So I felt like through him, I was living vicariously my dream of, artistry, of storytelling. So I was oftentimes more excited than him in the things that I, got him to do, like the movie reviews, and then later into animation and storytelling. So it was really when I started to make the documentary films, when Perry decided to make the animated film in honor of my husband, I thought, here's a chance for me to finally realize my own dream of doing art, of making art, of telling our own stories. And after watching hundreds of movies with my son and being his editor and publisher of his early movie reviews, I knew what's a good story when I lived it. So I knew that my story would be a very rich, deeply personal, that would resonate with so many families, around the world, because it's a story about families, about deep connection between a parent and a child, and how that relationship can go from tug of war to ultimately best friends and creative partners, because Perry is my co-writer and co-producer, and of course, co-star too.
So the two of you, have found this beautiful relationship and connection, and you've set each other free in a way to, as you say, go for full circle to unearth these passions you had as a little girl. And isn't that a beautiful, I like to call it a third act. I don't know what you'd call it, but to me, this most exciting chapter of your life you're in, and you're able to sort of also live it in parallel, in conjunction with your child. So it's magical.
And so Diana, what I wanted to say is that in this process, Perry and I, he mentored me, which a lot of people would think as being unusual, like a child, young child mentoring a parent, but he was a far more experienced storyteller than me, because of having reviewed all these movies. And he was a writer and producer at his high school's award-winning television program. It's called CCA TV. And so he's taken, video and film courses at the high school. So he had far more experience than me. So he was very eager to teach me how to make a better documentary film. So to which I'm so grateful.
Yes. And that in itself is such a beautiful message as we all age. One of the things that is so important is that the relationships between generations, whether it be within family or in society, in the workplace, it's so critical that we realize that it isn't just the old wise ones that we are that can impart wisdom and knowledge. But, I, like you, I learned so much. I have a daughter who's 20 years old and same thing. Oh my. From the lips of babes, even when she was 4, Right. Oh my goodness. Well, Zhu, I really look forward to you sharing a little bit more. There's a story that I'd love for you to give us a little bit of a teaser on that really was the spark for this transition from Tiger Mom to Zen Mom. Can you share a little bit of a headline, and you'll share the whole story with us in October?
Right. So Diana, in 2018, right after Perry graduated from high school and winning multiple awards for Changyou's Journey, his directorial debut, we were set to go back to China to see our family in the summertime. And but we missed the flight because of me trying to cram too much into our insane schedule. And it was a flight from Tijuana to Beijing, a direct flight. And we were almost hijacked by 2 local taxi drivers on our way to the airport. And it was the most horrendous experience and very scary. But we turned it around. Instead of blaming each other, we took the time to be present with each other. And I'll tell you the rest of the story, and the footage that we got from that that experience was among the best ever that we are now including in Journey of 1,000 Miles documentary feature film. So I can't wait to share the rest of the story with your audience.
Oh, wonderful. It's got to be very raw footage, it's just
tragic
in this moment.
but very real and authentic and in the moment that we captured.
Wonderful. Well, Zhu, thank you so much for your time. One last question is, I like to ask each person that's sharing their stories is, if I were to ask you to design a bumper sticker or a plaque to hang on your wall that encapsulates your philosophy of life, what would it be?
Well, Diana, I have just the right thing to share. I'm glad you asked, because a few years ago, when I was shopping in an interior design store, I found this plaque that was perfect. It's called "Live the Life You Imagine." And I knew this is perfect for me because that's exactly what I'm doing. I think we do not have excuses not to live the life we imagine, because if we really want something with such passion and desire, then we will create the condition and learn whatever we need to learn to make that dream come true and to live the life we imagine that we can turn into a reality. And that's what I tell myself every day. I look at it and think about, what do I need to do today to live the life I imagine? So I want to share that with everyone.
How beautiful. Thank you so much. I can't wait to have you share your story in October, and have a beautiful day, and say hello to Perry. And
Thank you so much.
I cannot wait to see more as the film prepares to be viewed. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Diana. And it's a great pleasure to make friends and connect with you. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share my story with the audience.
Well, I'm honored you will be. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.